Kitchener-Conestoga.
Yes, well, thank you, Speaker, for that enthusiastic introduction today. I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you in this House, of course, to discuss an issue that is important not only to my constituents within the Kitchener-Conestoga Regional Waterloo area, but in fact to all Ontarians. This province's crippling debt. Although this issue is current and relevant, its history is deeply ingrained in this province. So please let me provide some historical context into the looming debt that we're all, in fact, up against.
The actual history.
It was CBC's Mike Crawley who recently pointed out that the last time an Ontario finance minister balanced the budget, George W. Bush was in the White House. The iPhone wasn't yet available in Canada. Good thing. I'm home with the BlackBerry, of course. Matt Sundin was captain of the Maple Leafs.
Wow.
People were still renting DVDs from Blockbuster, and Justin Bieber was performing in talent shows on the steps in Stratford.
He hadn't been arrested yet.
Unfortunately for everyone in Ontario, my parents' generation, my generation, and my children's generation, we can't even begin to have a conversation regarding a finance minister balancing a budget because, quite frankly, it is that far out of reach as it stands today. This is because the Liberal government keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Just as we have said in this House on multiple occasions, life is harder under the Liberals, and this has been true for a staggering 12 years.
Yep.
When the Liberals took power in 2003, Ontario was the 7th most indebted province. 13 years of Liberal rule later, Ontario is now the 2nd most indebted province after Quebec. By next year, we're predicted to be the most indebted province in Canada. This government's fiscal mismanagement means more spending to pay down more debt interest. It means 9 cents of every tax dollar collected by the provincial government in revenue is being spent on interest payments. And it means less money available to invest in the priorities of Ontarians both now and in the future. In fact, Speaker, this year, according to the Wynne government's own projections, interest on debt payments will cost Ontario taxpayers $1 billion every month.
Wow.
$1 billion every month.
Shameful.
Can you only imagine?
Every month.
Again, the interest payment on Ontario's debt have now become the 3rd largest expenditure in this government. That does not go towards health care, education, social services, or infrastructure. That goes nowhere but to the bank, Speaker, to foreign credit bondholders that invest in their infrastructure, not ours. It goes towards banks who are uncertain about Ontario's future. And why shouldn't they be uncertain? We haven't kept our fiscal house in order for over a decade under Liberal rule, and yet the spending continues. As the Liberals just keep swiping the province's credit card. It's like that little, just tap it. It's swiping or tapping it, you know, just everywhere. On the next, piling up more debt on the next generation. Swipe, tap, swipe.
Tap.
Out of touch with reality, out of touch with how it affects the people of Ontario. And as the interest spending continues, the cuts to frontline services continue. We see the continued toll from ongoing wasted spending that has taken funding from where it's most needed and led to cuts throughout the province. The Premier was elected on a promise of no cuts to frontline healthcare workers, and yet again and again, we see the complete opposite.
Broken promise.
With Grand River Hospital in my region, Speaker, being the latest to announce cuts, 30 vacant positions being slashed and layoff notices given to 38 others, including nurses. Make no mistake, these cuts fall at the heel of this Liberal government and its fiscal mismanagement. Unfortunately, when billions are wasted on gas plants and non-existent e-health registries, it means less for the priorities that we actually care about most. Speaker, quite frankly, there is an ongoing concern with the way this government handles its money. and the spending choices made for our health sector continue to highlight that reality. With all of our promise and potential, this reality hits hard. But what hits even harder is that for generations, Ontarians have been paying into a system that is expected to take care of us when we can't take care of ourselves. It is supposed to take care of our children when they're making their start in their adult lives, and yet because of years of fiscal mismanagement under the Liberal government, there will be nothing left to take care of them. Speaker, we live in a world where parents expect to provide their children with better lives than they had themselves. But after 12 years of tax and spend Liberal rule, we will be leaving them with less. That is not the cycle of human nature. It is not the cycle of fiscal responsibility. It is not the cycle of social responsibility, and it is not a cycle I feel comfortable with continuing as a member of this House. The Liberals are mortgaging our future, Ontario's future, on a generation that doesn't even have a running start due to government fiscal financial mismanagement. In fact, the Premier herself has stated that nobody wants to imagine a future where their children and grandchildren don't have a future. Well, we couldn't agree more, Speaker. She's right. It's not only our children, it's also our grandchildren and future generations who are going to be paying for the Liberal fiscal mismanagement in Ontario. It is because of this that the opposition has come here today for one reason and one reason only. We actually want to build a better Ontario. And for the first step is finally taking aim at getting this province's finances in order. The Premier needs to clean up the mess she and her predecessor have created. It's time for immediate action to balance a budget that hasn't been balanced in their 12 years. And time for real solutions to pay down the provincial debt to allow investment into our priorities, such as community health care, and to remove the heavy debt burden this government has allowed to compromise the future of our next generation. Speaker, I appreciate the time given today. I want to remind those watching at home, everything we do, we put on a credit card, and it's those future generations that will be concerned most about the actions we make today. Thank you.